Hey guys, welcome to the channel. This is going to be the first review for 2025. Now, I haven't been feeling great the past few days, feeling a little under the weather, so I apologize for the crap voice. However, we're going to get into it and review this franchise. Now, this franchise really only has one solid movie, but I wanted to break them each down anyway, just to sort of at least give my opinion, the bare minimum of the sequels of what makes up this franchise, since there are four of them. So we're going to start with the first one, Jaws. Now, I'm going to show you guys my physical part of this collection as well for this franchise. So for Jaws, I have, which, fun fact, something I did that you guys don't have to do, but if you are an avid movie collector, all four Jaws movies are on 4K now. So that is something you have the option to pick up if that's a franchise that you really want to get all four of them. But I have the lenticular cover, so I don't know, it's kind of hard to see on camera, but I thought this is pretty cool. I can't remember when I got this. This is so long ago, but or it has to at least been a few years ago. But I like this lenticular cover. It is, of course, in 4K, and I don't think there's really anything else. No, there is. Yeah. So I remember what I want to show you guys. So this came with a book as well. It's come with different sort of this. It's kind of behind the scenes. You have locations that it talks about from the first movie, original storyboards. So if you're into these sort of behind the scenes sort of things, especially for a physical collection, this copy of Jaws has that for you. So the second copy I have is the Steelbook. This one is 4K as well. This is one of the few movies I do have two copies of. I don't have two copies of very many movies at all, but this is one of a few. So we have Jaws, which this is sort of half of the original poster, with the back of it being the other half of the original poster. So it's kind of interesting for the movie. You open it up. It's kind of the poster if it was, but it was cool to have. I do like the steelbooks, and this was a really cool Jaws steelbook. So I know I've already reviewed this movie individually before, and I don't know what else I can say about it. This movie is a timeless classic. It proves its worth. It proves its existence. There's so many people that absolutely love this movie. It's an older movie compared to a lot of classics. You think of movies that are classics aside from the true original classics, most people say 80s movie, but this barely counts as 70s, which is sort of just hard to digest for younger fans like myself watching these movies and still appreciating just how amazing these films are, or this film is. Let me be specific there. And so obviously Martin Brody was the main character for the first one and the second, which we'll sort of get into, and clearly he was best actor for the first one. There's a reason he was cast as the lead role, because he's sort of what helped mold this movie. And the first one had the less is more approach, which gave it sort of the horror element. There are so many horror fans that consider Jaws to be a horror movie. I'm still not convinced if I consider it horror, only because I think of horror as either bloody or violent or graphic. In Jaws, it isn't graphic in terms of today's horror, but when it came out, it was violent. So I understand why it's horror. It's just hard for me to sort of accept that, comparing it to graphic horror, I guess. But whether you consider it horror or not, there are many that do, and you can see why. So this movie stands the test of time being classic, and I don't think that there really be another shark movie that will beat this one. There could be one that might technically, from a technical standpoint, be better produced or filmed or something, but there isn't going to be a shark movie that's better liked than the original Jaws. So they tried it with the Meg, that's not happening. They tried it with Jaws sequels, it didn't happen. So let's move on. Speaking of the Jaws sequels, so I have Jaws 2 in 4K. Here's the copy. It's not a steelbook or anything. So it is the 45th anniversary edition of Jaws 2. And as you can see on the back there, Martin Brody is back in this movie as well. So this movie I thought wasn't horrible. This was just bland. So they sort of tried to copy the same thing from the first one, where Martin Brody is alerted, hey, there's a shark, it's killing people, we gotta stop it. Kind of the exact same thing from the first one. So everything about the first one was an original story, and I think what they needed to do for a sequel was it needed to feel familiar, but be something different and be something new. This one just didn't have that. There's a lot of new characters, but they are all honestly just forgettable characters. We didn't really get a lot of depth to them. There really wasn't any time to get invested or root for these new characters. It was just Martin Brody. That's it. And so having him be put in extremely similar, almost the same role as he was in the first one, I just think it failed to sort of give a different approach of what I thought a sequel to such a classic movie could have been. So all in all, it wasn't a terrible movie. I just thought it was closer to boring than some of these other sequels. And let's sort of dive into that. So Jaws 3. Jaws 3 is interesting because online, whether it's Letterboxd or Google or I think even Wikipedia, it's Jaws 3D. That's the title. But when you search for the product itself on Amazon, it's just Jaws 3. I got the steelbook here, and I really do like the steelbook for Jaws 3. I think it's pretty neat. It's interesting. I love the concept. This concept was sort of just copied for Jaws: The Revenge, which I'll show you guys. But I really do like the steelbook. Just for some reason, I think the steelbook material looks nicer when it's a image from the movie itself. So from the front, this is artwork for it. On the back, it's an image from the film. And so I just thought that was pretty cool. For Jaws 3, the only thing that I thought was interesting is Martin Brody, obviously the actor. I believe he just simply didn't want to come back for the other two movies. But his kids, Michael and Sean Brody, I don't believe it was the same actors for them, but they did cast older actors for these two characters. So his children were sort of taking the mantle in Jaws 3. So passing the torch was kind of interesting. I just wish it could have been seen on screen for Martin Brody to have a cameo or something, but they moved on from his character, and his kids became central point for Jaws 3, where Michael, he works in the water, his girlfriend works in the water, all of that, and then Sean, he knew of the events that happened when he was a kid, so he wants to avoid water at all costs. So you get a different dynamic between the two of them, and it really, I thought, worked well in this movie. I just thought the chance or the choice of it being at SeaWorld was interesting. The SeaWorld I know today, which isn't even called SeaWorld anymore, which is really mind-boggling. I don't know if this was a attraction that just happened to be called SeaWorld as well, or what, because I didn't do the research for it, but I just thought it was interesting that a shark movie took place at SeaWorld. And so, obviously, Jaws 3 has a weak plot. I actually found the characters to be likable, which was sort of shocking coming from Jaws 2, which I didn't find them really wasn't any depth to them. But for Michael and Sean, I thought you could like these characters. And so it was interesting having neat characters in the middle of sort of a dumb plot. There's a shark that ends up on the property of SeaWorld. They capture it, but it dies. But oh wait, it was a baby. The mother's still here. So now the mother's out for revenge in SeaWorld. And if you've seen the clip on YouTube from the bad CGI in this movie, it is pretty horrendous to the point where I just literally just died from laughing at it. It was really, really, really bad. But like I said, having likable characters was one thing that I wish the second one would have had, besides Martin Brody. And so Jaws 3 unfortunately just didn't do it for me as a good sequel. I thought that you had a decent cast with likable characters. It was a decent written story as far as the characters were concerned. They just needed a workable plot that could actually give these characters more depth and reason for their being, other than just attack at SeaWorld. That's really all it was. So I was disappointed. I thought that there's a lot that could have been done to make this movie better. And the thing for me is Jaws 3 was so close in multiple aspects that it almost was really, really good. But it just felt like there were some lazy points in the making of this movie. So that's what's unfortunate. I don't hate this movie. Like I said, there are likable characters. I just wish there was a lot more. So you get one good look at Jaws 3 Steelbook and Jaws The Revenge. It's extremely similar. I don't know why they didn't do something different for this, but they just didn't. So it's the same thing, artwork on the front, and it's actually artwork on the back as well. It's not an image from the movie, but these steelbooks, of course, are 4K, and so obviously you have the standard 4K copy, the steelbook copy, and you have Blu-ray copies of the movie, so this is not a difficult franchise to get a hold of a physical copy for. For Jaws: The Revenge, I actually thought that it, as much crap that the sequel gets, I honestly think it's the strongest sequel. I thought I enjoyed it better than Jaws 2 and Jaws 3, and here's why. Martin Brody obviously is the better character for the franchise, but him aside, he couldn't alone carry all of Jaws 2. So in Jaws: The Revenge, Michael and Sean are still in the movie, but they are recast again, so there are different adult actors in this movie from Jaws 3, but I think the characters actually still had a decent story. So Michael's mother, she's actually gets a ton of screen time in this movie, and what happens is Sean is actually attacked by a shark in the beginning, and he ends up dying. So this movie sort of, there's sort of this mini vacation that Michael and his family and his mother take, sort of get away from things, but he still works in the water. So his mother's freaking out. Her husband, Martin Brody, he had died off screen. They said it was a heart attack, so it didn't have anything to do with the shark, but she still believes that the fear of the shark is what killed him. And then it's the same thing with Sean, where a shark killed him. Just she thinks that Jaws is getting revenge against her family, hence the title for the movie. And so she's sort of she's scared for Michael. She doesn't want to work in the water. She's freaking out. But his job, he dives in the water for research. So I actually thought that the whole trying to get over losing someone in her family and freaking out about the water, freaking out about sharks, that whole story was actually a human, relatable story. So I did like that aspect of it. And Michael has his own way of processing it as well, especially when he sees a near miss with another shark attack, that he wants to withhold that information from his mother, which causes a that sort of dynamic for the movie. So I thought the plot was actually a little bit more clever and strategic in this than in Jaws 2 and Jaws 3, which is just sort of strange. I expected to go into this movie thinking this is going to be the worst one of the four, but I would, if I had to rank them, it would be Jaws, Jaws: The Revenge, Jaws 2, Jaws 3. So what are you going to do? That's my ranking. But at the end of the movie, of course, Michael ends up getting the jump on the shark. The shark is killed, again, as it is in every movie. But having his daughter almost being attacked by a shark, I mean, I just thought this had, not jump scares, this wasn't close to horror, I would consider, but there's definitely more suspense with this movie than in the others, and actually killing off some characters, some named characters, it posed real stakes for the movie as well, and for the franchise as a whole. So I actually really did like this entry. It wasn't a strong, amazing movie, but I enjoyed it more than the previous two. So there you have it. That is my review for Jaws, Jaws 2, Jaws 3, and Jaws: The Revenge. This is a solid franchise only because the first one is so iconic. The sequels are just okay. If you're a completionist, I would say go and watch them. But if you don't have an interest at all, this is not, you're not missing out on a lot. So, thank you guys for watching. I've always had this fascination with shark movies, so even though most of them are crap, except for Jaws, but that's just the irony of it. So thanks for watching this review, guys. Can't wait to put out more reviews for this year. Hit hopefully video 300 this year. Thanks for sticking with me. I'll keep more content coming. Keep it digging, everyone.